Looking at the beautiful woman sleeping on the sofa, I was very satisfied with her performance last night. Suddenly, a large group of FBI agents burst through the door. Out of fear, I raised both hands, and then they pinned me to the ground and handcuffed me. It turned out to be a joint arrest by the FBI and DEA. They searched my house and found large quantities of contraband and cash, and then discovered 2 AK-47s. They told me I would face criminal charges and that no amount of money could secure bail, but I didn't care at all and gave her a contemptuous smile. Although they sent me to prison, I knew that my father, being a police officer, would soon get me out of there. However, what I didn't expect was that my father actually compromised with the prosecutor for his own interests. Because of my illegal possession of contraband and heavy weapons, I could potentially face life imprisonment. But my father told me not to worry. He had already reached an agreement with the prosecutor. As long as I chose to plead guilty in court, the prosecutor would fight for a 5-year sentence reduction, and if I behaved well in prison, I could be out in 2 years. This sudden, devastating news was unacceptable to me, but to reduce my sentence, I still followed my father's advice. However, an accident occurred on the day of the trial. Although I chose to plead guilty, the judge believed that my possession of heavy weapons was actually to protect my contraband. Therefore, according to the minimum sentencing standards, the judge sentenced me to 10 years in prison. Only then did I realize that both my father and I had been deceived by this prosecutor. I simply could not accept this outcome. 10 years in prison? How was that possible? I angrily cursed at the prosecutor, but the matter was now settled, and no matter how much I struggled, it was useless. 7 months later, a prison guard suddenly took me to the medical office, where sat the very prosecutor who had sent me to prison, along with a beautiful woman. The woman identified herself as a special agent from the FBI. She had discovered that I had been living quite comfortably during my 7 months in prison, not only getting along well with various prison gangs, but even developing my own side business there. But I paid no attention to her praise, knowing they were looking for me. It turned out they valued my social skills and wanted me to transfer to another prison to make contact with an inmate and extract from him the location where bodies were hidden. The prosecutor also told me they suspected this person was a serial killer who had murdered 14 young girls, but they had only found one victim's body. To convict this criminal, they needed to find all the remaining bodies. If I could help them solve this serial murder case, they could apply to have my remaining sentence of 9 years and 3 months commuted. Faced with such enormous temptation, I thought for a moment but still refused their proposal, because I had already been deceived by this prosecutor once and didn't know if there were other traps involved. The female agent hoped I would cherish this opportunity and left the killer's file on the table before leaving. The next day during visitation, I told my father about the undercover sentence reduction offer. Unexpectedly, my father directly told me to abandon this idea because that prison housed a group of psychopaths, and he was worried that if I couldn't complete the mission, what awaited me would be endless revenge from the killer. My father then told me not to overthink it and that he would find a way to get me out. But unexpectedly, an accident occurred. I learned from my stepmother that my father had fallen seriously ill because of my situation and could no longer take care of himself. He might not live to see the day I was released from prison. Back in my cell, the female agent's parting words kept echoing in my mind, thinking that